Kingpin, and you're listening to the Air Raid Hour of Buffalo Fanatics Video Experience.
Jeff, I'm having trouble hearing you, and so are some people in the comments. All right, I think Jeff is trying to fix his sound. While he does that, thanks for coming in. As you know, my name is Jeremy. You can find me on Twitter at BFF_Jeremy. I co-host the Buffalo Bootleg podcast with Max Underhill. You can find him at Cinco de Maxo. And happy to be a guest with Jeff this week, filling in for the Air Raid Hour. Still having issues. All right. So sorry about that. Jeff is trying to diagnose these issues. Richard Rush, how you doing? Nice to see you in here. Still the same. What is going on? Is everybody hearing me okay? Thank you, Maurice.
Anything?
Yes.
There we go. I finally did it. I finally did it. This must be what Duke Williams is going to feel like when he cracks the 53-man for game day this year.
All right.
I do need a breath mint. Thank you very much. You can smell me through the camera, there, Chris S. I just took a shower right next door to my office. There's a bathroom with a shower in it. So, all right. So, as I was trying to say, this is the Air Raid Hour, and that is Jeremy. Jeremy, how are you doing tonight? Because I couldn't ask that question a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for letting me be a part of it. I know you kind of put out like an open invitation, but I'm happy to be able to jump into some of these, as a guest throughout these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I did 3 straight shows for the guys. Judge and Tilt were great to just say, hey, have at it, guys. And hosted with Kendall, hosted one show with Tilt. And honestly, not all heroes wear capes, sir, but you do, because the person I was supposed to host with flaked out again. And so it was a last minute, under 24 hours, trying to get a co-host. So you, sir, are a hero for joining me.
Yeah, I know the stress, so happy to help out.
So one of our topics tonight, so the topics we are going to go through tonight, we're going to talk about the top 10 most trolled players on Instagram. I've been mixing cereals lately. It's been life-changing, mixing the banana nut granola with the peanut butter cereal. It's just like you can mix any cereal you want, and it's almost always delicious. So I got me thinking, what players could we combine and make one? And instead of just coming up with it off the top of the head, we're gonna draw names out of a hat for it. We're going to talk players who have to create value to stay during training camp and the process some other players will have to go through during camp, whether that's Singletary trying to get used to his new body. And then we have training camp battles that I'd like to see. I'm sure you've got some you'd like to see as well, Jeramy, and maybe some ways Josh Allen can improve tonight. So get in the comment section if you want your comment read on air. It's guaranteed with the super chat. So let's get right into it. As always, smash the like button as well. The top 10 most trolled players on Instagram. Jeramy, I have the list right here in front of me, and I'm going to let you absolutely take a guess to see if you can name the top 10.
I definitely won't be able to name top 10. I was trying to come up with names based on just who I feel like I see getting like made fun of the most. You said there's an article out there. I didn't look it up, so I tried to come up with some, and that was over like the past year. And I have to ask, like, did Josh Allen make this list? Because he's got a lot of haters, and one thing haters hate to see is success, and he was really successful. So that's is that one of them that's on there?
Josh Allen is not on this list. And just for you in the comment section, this is an NFL-wide list. It is not just the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is not on this list. There is one player who has worn the Bills jersey on this list.
I was going to ask if Cole Beasley managed to crack into that list just recently. He's been putting in a lot of work. I mean, whether you agree with what he's saying or not, but I know he garnered a lot of hate.
Let me just tell you that he's got a lot of ground to make up, because the number one person on this list has 10 times more negative comments than the attendance of the last 10 Super Bowls combined.
Oh, gosh. All right. So that was my only... Sorry, go ahead.
You're probably... I didn't look at the official number. I just looked at that interesting stat. You're probably in the 10 millions at that point, close to 10 million.
Okay. So another player I guessed was Lamar Jackson.
So Lamar Jackson did not crack the top 10 for total overall negative or troll comments. There is Don Keith coming in hot with a guess, and Deshaun Watson, Don Keith, is on this list. Jeremy, where do you think Watson falls in on this list?
I mean, does it mention how far back this list goes to garner these?
No, I didn't see that, but I'm gonna guess there's probably a time span of a year or a few years.
Okay. Well, I mean, Deshaun Watson, I feel like it can only be recently that he would garner so much. So I feel like he couldn't really be in the top 5, but maybe in the middle somewhere.
Give me a number, 1 through 10.
I'm going to say 7.
You're close. James FX90, not that one, sorry. Jameis is not up there. This is the comment I wanted. Watson is 8th, I bet, and he is correct. He would win that bet. Deshaun Watson is 8th. But if you only did it in the last, 6 months, I wonder if he would be up there to be number 1 with the negative comments. And honestly, he may have fallen off a little bit because his PR team might be keeping him off social media considering his situation. So we got to get you're right in there, James. Bing, bing. We're doing the Rico here for Brian Bowers, the new YouTube member. Thank you for subscribing. Brian, give us a share, give us a like. Spread this to your friends out there. I'm not new, had to update payments. Well, Judge would have been able to tell me that, but sorry about that. Still, it came up green. New member.
All right, so I have another guess, and this is a bit of a joke guess, but is it just any Cowboys players? Because I feel like the Cowboys, they get a lot of hate. Mostly their fans.
There is not in the top 10. Not in the top 10 of total negative comments. So if you just thought about who would get the most traffic out of all of the players, you could probably get the top 3 or 4.
Okay, I have 2 more guesses that I wrote down. One of them is Juju Smith-Schuster.
Not on the top 10.
Wow.
Not on the top 10 of negative comments, which is surprising because us Bills fans had a lot to say about that guy ahead of the Bills-Steelers game right after we saw him dancing on the Bills logo.
Right. And not just Bills fans, but any, football fan who sees him doing that for the attention in the cloud. I think that would kind of rub a lot of people the wrong way. So I kind of thought he'd be on there. And then the last guess that I can think of right now is Le'Veon Bell.
Not Le'Veon Bell.
Wow.
Not on the top 10. So
I got
think
0.
Quarterbacks. Think quarterbacks.
Somebody in here, I was kind of wondering this, and I didn't mean to think any more Bills players, but they mentioned it, and Mitch Trubisky came up, and I was kind of curious if he
is not on the top 10. So this is the top 10 most trolled players on Instagram by overall total negative comments. So Rodgers is coming in with Rodgers is on this list. Brown is not.
That was going to be my next guess. Rodgers
is number 10. Okay. And that again is surprising considering current events with the question marks surrounding him. Now, Chris S. Somebody also said this. So Chris S. comes in with Tom Brady, and credit to someone else who said it in the comment section. But Tom Brady, number 1 overall.
Oh,
which Bills fans are doing your job if you're trolling Tom Brady with the negative comments on Instagram, even though that's very unprocessed. So Tom Brady, and get this, Tom Brady has 10 times more negative comments on his Instagram than the attendance of the last 10 Super Bowls combined. Number 1 overall.
Are there any more quarterbacks on the list?
Yes. Keep thinking quarterbacks.
And these are quarterbacks with Instagrams. I'm seeing a couple throughout Jimmy Garoppolo. Is he on there?
Garoppolo is not. I
am terrible at this. I just go on Twitter. That's why I don't know about any of these things. Yeah. But
I'm not very much on Instagram either. I'm very active on Twitter. And number 2. Just signed a 400 and...
Sorry, were you going to say Pat Mahomes?
Yeah, $450 million contract extension.
And he's number 2?
$450 million. Mahomes is number 2 on the list of top 10 most trolled players, and he has over 1 million total negative comments. However, that was his total negative comments. His percentage was actually the 4th lowest. So he got a ton of really good comments, a ton. But his percentage was actually really small of his overall comments. But he was number 2 for most total negative comments. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Any more quarterbacks on the list?
Yes.
Okay. How about Russell Wilson?
Wilson is not on this list. Man. I will give you number 3 is a defensive player.
Okay. Defensive player at number 3. I feel like I'm just going to get it wrong. Can you give me a little more specific to go off of, like a position group?
If I gave you the team, it would give it away. I will give you
Jalen Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey is not on this list.
Man.
Okay, number 3. I don't think you won a Heisman. It's probably not. Should be a defensive MVP. Absolutely surefire should be defensive MVP.
Okay. TJ Watt?
No. And Donnybrook actually got you in here with it. It's Aaron Donald.
Okay.
The number 3 most trolled player on Instagram.
I don't know who's going after Aaron Donald. I wouldn't.
I know. I'm sitting here thinking, why would... is it bad San Francisco or Seattle fans? Who would go after Aaron Donald?
Yeah, I would not say a single comment for the off chance that he finds out where I live and knocks on my door. You never know. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no. That's like that the commercial with the former Steelers defensive lineman, not Harrison. Maybe it was Harrison, where he's running through the house chasing the guy.
Oh, because he's got to get paid or something.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
if
he
he doesn't
doesn't get
tackle
paid
you,
if he doesn't make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a good
Yeah.
commercial. I would not want him showing up. It might be actually James Harrison. All right. You've got 1, 2, 3, 8, and 10. So you need 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. 9, I'll give you 9. 10 is Aaron Rodgers. 9 is a wide receiver. 8 is Deshaun Watson.
So wide receiver. I'm gonna let people in the comments help me out with this because I've just been terrible at guessing. Tyreek Hill.
No. This player was traded prior to the 2020 season.
It's Stephon
It's
Diggs.
not Steph Diggs. Not Stephon Diggs.
But he was traded in the same offseason.
Same offseason. Yep.
Oh, who else
So
was
start
traded?
thinking big time names, big stars.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not Diggs. Antonio Brown was not traded. Or does he count? Because he was kind of like he was traded but then released and then signed. DeAndre Hopkins.
It is DeAndre Hopkins
Chris
is
S.
in at number 9. Chris
All
S
right.
coming in with it. Okay, so you got 10 is Aaron Rodgers, 9 DeAndre Hopkins, 8 Deshaun Watson. Number 7, surprise, quarterback.
Another
and
quarterback.
It's from a team that a lot of other fan bases have problems with. We don't have a lot of problems with them, I think, because we're on the East Coast. But
Okay.
if you're a Western team, or you've maybe lost a Super Bowl to this team, it's a quarterback of that team. If you put a hotel next to their new stadium, it would look like a toilet bowl.
Oh, is this isn't Derek Carr, is it?
It is Derek Carr.
Okay.
Derek Carr, number 7. Number 6. I would say a lot of NFC teams, especially in the East, might have a problem with this quarterback.
Is it Prescott?
It is not Prescott. Right division.
Uh-huh.
In fact, this team's fans might actually have a problem with this quarterback, and other teams are actually laughing at this team after winning a recent Super Bowl.
Oh, is this Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts?
It's Jalen Hurts.
Okay. He's number 6.
Is coming in at number 6. So 10, Aaron Rodgers, 9, DeAndre Hopkins, 8, Deshaun Watson, 7, Derek Carr, 6, Jalen Hurts. You've got 1, 2, and 3 as well. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Donald, 1, 2, 3. You need 4 and 5.
Okay.
Both of these players have played in the NFC South.
Okay.
One played in the AFC West. One also played for the Buffalo Bills.
Okay. Can you give me a position to go off of?
If I gave you the position, our comment section has already gotten it. I'll give you number 4. Number 4 is a quarterback.
Okay. Quarterback. I'm trying to just go down the list. It's Cam Newton?
No.
No Cam.
Although I don't understand why he's not on the top 10. I mean,
yeah. Another quarterback. Is Roethlisberger on here?
he is not top 10. Think about a guy we as Bills fans would actually really appreciate.
Appreciate because of his skill set or his attitude, character?
His skill set, character, attitude, winning.
I'm so terrible at this. And the comments are not helping me.
Okay.
I don't think anybody would appreciate Baker Mayfield.
No. Okay, I'm going to give it to you because he did win a Super Bowl. Drew Brees is number 4. Why anybody's going after Drew Brees, still not sure.
Yeah, same here. And
one player left. Number 5. The comment section has already gotten this. And it is a person who has worn a Buffalo Bills jersey. And he actually had the highest percentage of negative posts. So he didn't have the most total number, but he did have the highest percentage.
Okay. So that means that, like, of all the comments that are being spoken about him, the most of them are negative. And this is not a quarterback?
And not a quarterback, and has worn the Bills jersey.
All right, I'm seeing a lot of Sammy Watkins in the comments.
It is not Sammy Watkins. It would be a person who would play opposite Sammy Watkins on the other side of the line of scrimmage.
Stephon Gilmore?
No, but you're in the right group, position group.
I already said Jalen Ramsey. I'm spacing. Just let me.
I'm gonna give it to you right here.
Josh Norman.
Josh Norman not be on this? He gets destroyed and pisses everyone off by Donnybrook. Way to get that comment in there, Donnybrook. That is your top 10 most trolled players on Instagram. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Donald, Drew Brees, Josh Norman, Jalen Hurts, Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and Aaron Rodgers. Which,
I'm a little surprised because I was putting myself in the mindset of, these people are getting trolled because of like their social media presence and comments. And a lot of these surprised me just because they just seem like popular players. And I guess, that's another reason to be trolled.
I understand as a Bills fan going after Tom Brady. And if you're a Denver or a Vegas fan going after Patrick Mahomes, or you just don't like the fact that he's going to get $450 million. I don't understand the Drew Brees. I don't understand DeAndre Hopkins. I totally get Rodgers and Watson. I thought they would be completely higher than they are, especially given Watson's circumstances and Rodgers holding out. Why Donald, Chris S? I don't get it on why people would go after Aaron Donald, because like Jeremy said, that's a nightmare waiting to happen if he shows up at your house. So those are the top 10 most trolled players on Instagram.
And honestly, I didn't think Jalen Hurts was even popular enough to make fun of. So I was surprised he was even on the list.
You thought wrong, good sir. You thought wrong, because I actually was surprised to see it as well. Now, this week, Jeremy, I decided to be a little crazy and have cereal at night, because I got home. It was actually Monday night after doing the air raid hour for Judge, and I didn't want to make anything, so I just made a bowl of cereal. No big deal. Fantastic. I actually put 3 different cereals in it. I had raisin nut granola, banana nut granola, Raisin Bran, and peanut butter, Reese's peanut butter puffs. And it was amazing. I mean, some of the taste kind of conflicted just a little bit, but a big bowl of cereal, 8 o'clock at night out here in the mountain time zone, and it was delicious. And that got me thinking, since I've done it each night this week because it has become life-changing for me, quick bowl of cereal, it's kind of hanging out. If we were to mix players and put players together, we could make it funny. We could come up with our own. I would like to see, an Isaiah McKenzie's height with a John Feliciano's weight. That would be hilarious, I think. What do you have?
I took the serious route. I didn't quite get super fun, but maybe maybe towards the end I can kind of come up with some ideas if that works.
Okay, and we can go random too, because we can pull them from a hat.
Okay. I did come up with one, and this, again, I was thinking about like skill sets, and one of the first things I came up with is combining Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie. I think, they both play in the slot mostly. If you took Beasley's route running, his ability to separate in his hands, and mix that with Isaiah McKenzie's speed and his return abilities, I think that would be like a great condensing of 2 players. It would free up a roster spot. It would, take care of our special teams as well as wide receiver 3. So that was one of the first things I came up with.
Okay. I hadn't actually put any together, so I'm going to do the pull a name from a hat and see what traits we can come up with, whether we can make it funny or serious. It's July. Training camp is still 3 weeks away. We are in the most dead part of the off season, pending any magic by Brandon Bean. If he turns around for a contract for Josh Allen, that would be huge before training camp. However, I don't really see that happening until the end of the year. maybe until the season starts. So I for any of you who watched the BF tailgate in the season, I got my trusty old Bills helmet with the mini helmets in it. So I've written down a name for each team that I pull. So if I pull Baltimore and the Ravens, that is Devin Singletary. I wrote down Devin Singletary for Baltimore. So think about Devin Singletary's traits.
Okay.
With San Francisco, and I wrote down Boogie Basham. So you got Singletary and Basham. What player could we make out of these two?
Ooh. I feel like that could be a mean fullback.
A mean fullback.
You took Devin Singletary's vision and his running abilities, but then you added like the bulk and the scariness of what probably like Boogie Basham is. So it's like, how can you pack on the weight but still have it help out? So yeah, maybe just like a very scary, nasty fullback.
Okay, James FX 90. That would be. I think that's Reggie Gilliam, maybe. But James FX comes in. Hughes' mental game paired with Greg Rousseau's size equals a first ballot Hall of Fame. What do you think about that one? Hughes' mental game with Greg Rousseau's size.
Yeah, his mental game and with not just Greg Rousseau's size, but they both have, from what I hear, just like very high motors as well. So I feel like you kind of throw that in there as well. That would be scary for sure. And yeah, very possible first ballot Hall of Famer.
Chris S said a kick-ass tight end for. I think he was referencing Singletary and Basham on that one. However, Singletary's drop, we might just end up with a Dawson Knox on that one because as soon as he said tight end and Singletary, I'm like, I just flashed back to the AFC Championship game and how that just changed the course of the game with the butterfly effect. All right.
Yeah.
Don Keith says Beasley with Diggs' flossing and tooth health. So that's a pretty good one. If I could get it up on the screen, here we go. Yeah, Beasley missing a tooth. Actually, my 5-year-old daughter is now missing 2 front teeth. So I'm sad that it's actually July and not Christmas time, because if we could get her to sing All I Want for Christmas as my 2 front teeth on video, I think that would be a keeper for life. You got another one written down? I think you wrote a few down.
Yeah, I wrote one more. And, speaking of Moss, I said, or Singletary, I was reading Moss. I said, let's just put Moss and Singletary together and just make them one running back. And, it probably wouldn't see that much of a change. But again, it's like that little bit of difference you get between both of them. We can just combine them into one running back. And again, we free up another roster spot for somebody with speed, because, that both of them are not bringing that. So a little bit of humor in that one, I guess, if you want to poke a little bit of fun at them. But like I said, very similar, I think, already. So let's just combine them and make one.
Okay. So I see where you're going with that. You want to combine guys to get more roster spots. You're trying to pull a Brandon Bean here. But I think Singletary and Moss are just unique enough that, they're almost trying to go thunder and lightning type. It feels like the Moss could be the bruiser back, and the Singletary is going to be that elusive guy who's going to try to break tackles. Let's see what the helmet gives to us one more time.
Yes.
If we could combine 2 Buffalo Bills players, I pulled Arizona, and for Arizona, I wrote down Reed Ferguson. So think about what Reed Ferguson brings. It's usually pretty nice, I hear.
Okay.
And the Los Angeles Chargers, Isaiah McKenzie. So Reed Ferguson and Isaiah McKenzie. What could we build as a football player out of those 2 players?
Ooh. With Reed Ferguson, the only 2 things that come to my head, he's a very, very nice guy, and he's a long snapper. So I'm not so sure what you're going to do with those. Isaiah McKenzie is already a very nice guy, very liked.
They both can throw the ball, because that's literally what Reed is doing when he snaps the ball. True. He's throwing it. Isaiah McKenzie has a touchdown pass.
Yeah, Ferguson's like a super hiker, super center. who doesn't he can't get touched. So yeah, I'm a little stumped on this one. You got anything?
Well, like I said, they both could throw the ball. So if you take Reed's height, Isaiah McKenzie's build, McKenzie has a touchdown pass. So you might have a super nice quarterback that has a nice physique.
McKenzie almost has all he has like the touchdown pass, the reception. He's like almost got rushing touchdown, and he's got like return touchdowns. He's almost got them all.
Yeah,
we just need him to get a pick six.
Well, Taron Johnson has the authority on that. But if you took Reed's weight and McKenzie's physique, that almost might be Josh Allen there, Josh Allen-esque.
Yeah.
All right, I want to do this one more time before we move on to the next topic, because I just love the hat with the mini helmets. And Jeremy, I don't ever think played the mini helmet game on the tailgate last year.
I did not.
Okay. The New York Giants, I wrote down Jerry Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
And Kansas City, I wrote down Cody Ford. Jerry Hughes and Cody Ford. What football player are we making out of those two?
That's
an
a good one.
Inconsistent pass rusher that got traded for multiple positions.
Yeah, that's
We're going to go on the negative side.
We get to choose what we take, right? Or do we have to accept everything? Well,
no, you
remember,
choose.
Hughes has never missed a game, and then there's Ford, who was a little injury prone this year. So I feel like that almost cancels each other out, and you get like a regular healthy player out of that.
So take Hughes's longevity,
mm-hmm.
and what do we take of Cody Ford?
Cody Ford. I mean, nothing against Cody Ford. It's just we'll get into this with some topics later. But I mean, I don't know what he's shown me yet that I would want to take from Cody Ford. Like, not to be mean. What about you?
I'm stumped as well, because I wrote down consistency for our later on topics. Reed Dawn has a good one for what we had just pulled a little bit. Reed has his own beer. McKenzie has his barbecue. And beer and barbecue sounds like a good tailgate to me.
That does sound like a good time.
Now, why? This comment's just a little bit old for me. However, my first time I ever did, my dad took me to Giants Stadium to see the Giants play the Eagles in it might have been 1995. They were playing the Bengals. And Jim Brown was at that game. And before the game, you get to go down, in the front rows and watch warm-ups. And Jim Brown actually pointed up at me before the game and before we had to go all the way back up to our seats. So Gale Sayers moves with Jim Brown's body. Would that be like a Barry Sanders moves with a whose body? Who's a big bruising backer? I'm thinking like Ron Dane.
Yeah, I mean, when you say bruiser power, I instantly go to Henry in Tennessee. But that's just I'm not like
Derrick Henry's much more recent. That's a good pick.
Most of my experience is like with Reza and really with the Bills. I'm terrible at watching other teams. I lose interest so fast.
I totally am too, unless there's implications for the Bills going on. I really just don't. I just don't care. I really don't care about a Las Vegas, Minnesota game. Really, nope, doesn't interest me. I like the Bills game on the afternoon. I like the 4:25 game, and I like Sunday Night Football. Like that's a perfect afternoon. But in order to get to that point, we have training camp coming up, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for us to watch football, we have to go through all of the training. And part of that training camp is players who have to create value in order to make the roster. Now, some players have already created value, but are they going to be valued this season? And I'm curious as to what you wrote down for players who have to create value to stay, because my number one was actually a combination of either Mario Addison or Jerry Hughes, because they're they could be considered overpriced and maybe aging their way out the door for the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Addison is owed $10.15 million this season. Hughes, $10.75 million. Hughes' contract is the 5th largest on the team. Addison is 7th largest. One of them might be cap casualty, and I don't know. There are guys who are smarter than me who could break it down precisely on how each one is going to affect the team, whether a dead cap money or what gets rolled over or not. They're going to have to, I think, because of considering the draft and what they did bring in, I think they're going to have to really produce some extra value on the field in order for either one of them to stay.
Yeah. If you would have asked me going into the offseason before the draft and everything, I would have, when it comes to Hughes, I thought, if he keeps giving us what he's been giving us, I could see us, giving him another year. But would I give it to him for the price we're paying him now? I don't know about that. With Addison, and then I feel like I have to mention this: drafting Rousseau, Basham, and then the younger guys coming up, and even F.A. Obata. That I feel like kind of puts Addison and even more like Hughes now again, like you said, it puts him in a tight space. I don't know if Addison can create value. His name came up, and I think he might play with us this year. I feel like his contract restructure, some people says, makes it likely he won't be cut or traded. I'm all for it, regardless of if the dead cap could be a little high. It maybe depends on how he looks, but he can play however he wants this year. I think he's gone. We got a lot of young guys coming up. And like you said, with Hughes, it depends on, how well is he play. If he's playing the same, great, but he's getting older, and I don't think Bills want to keep paying him $10 million. And again, it just goes back after the draft. Like I said, drafting 2 defensive ends, I think those guys definitely are in a tight spot. So, that's my thoughts on Hughes and Addison. I did think about, like I said, putting Addison up there, but I think his name is on the wall. Like I said, he'll probably stick around this season. I think there's a good chance, but I don't think there's any way. When you say stay, I don't think there's any way that he's around next season or he's getting an extension.
And Don Keith comes in and says, Addison's restructuring his contract protects him. We gain nothing by releasing or trading him. This is the last year for both, I think, though. And I think you're right that this is the last year for both, which I think would make it a little more painless for the team to cut. Say, this is their last year. We're not moving on with them next year. So why keep both of them this year? We can keep one. Those are just my first 2 thoughts. I don't know how Brandon Beane is going to go about it, but definitely, where do you come up with the extra roster spots for this defensive line when you look at the overall defensive end and defensive tackle groups? It's going to be very, very hard. Do you have one that you wrote down?
Before, I would just like to add, Don says we gain nothing. And we probably don't gain any cap space or anything. And we probably couldn't even trade Mario for very much. He'd probably look like a Lee Smith trade, like a next year's 7th, because of his age and his trajectory. But to me, this is kind of my philosophy. People may not agree with it, but I would say you gain a roster spot and you gain more snaps to give to these young guys that you have coming up behind him. And if they're looking better, then hey, that's a plus for me. So it might be a little risky, but
I think it's going to come down to trust for the coaching staff. How much can the coaching staff trust an AJ Epinesa, an F.A. Obata, Daryl Johnson, Brian Cox, Greg Rousseau, Mike Love, Carlos Basham? How much can they trust those guys? I think Hughes is very trustable. Addison, I think they have trust in him. That's why they brought him in at the price tag they did. But can they trust these other guys enough to eliminate one of the other ones?
Yeah. The one I have, and I didn't really put them in any particular order, but I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to go with Harrison Phillips. and because he's going into a contract year. He missed his second season after a good start. He came back this year, and I know you need a little more time. When you come back, when you start, even though you're playing and you're recovered from an ACL, you still need a little more time. And I feel like even after about halfway through the season, he maybe started to look a little bit better, but not really. Like, he didn't really have any great like stretches. So he's going into a contract year, and I think he's really going to have to, if he wants to. I know he loves Buffalo. I mean, he was the team's Walter Payton Man of the Year. He seems like a great guy. Seems like he does so much. It seems like everything he's posting.
He was the pick by Pancho Villa. He is the pick by Pancho Villa. That's going to go down in history for Bills fans. He loves Buffalo, but you're right. He hasn't given us enough over his 3 years. It's going to be tough on him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we'd all love to see him stick around. Like I said, he's a great personality, and we get attached to players based off their, personalities and their off the field stuff. But I mean, that's great, but you got to be able to show up on the field as well. So this is going to be a really important year for Harrison Phillips, I think, for sure.
My second one, and it may not be as an imperative player, but it's Duke Williams. Can he prove that he can be on the game day roster? We've seen him. He scored a touchdown in Tennessee in 2019. He didn't register a snap or play any games last year. And I went back and double-checked on Pro Football Reference because I could not remember him dressing for any games, and I double-checked, and he was inactive for all of the games. Why are we still going through this with Duke Williams?
I feel like maybe, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like maybe he was called up for one game and maybe was on the field for like 4 snaps or something, but didn't see any targets. Like I feel like maybe I heard that, but it might as well, like you said, have been nothing.
Yeah, I think, unless Pro Football Reference is wrong, which I'm trying to check right now, but I think I got off of that one page. It said it didn't have him listed. It didn't have him listed for any games. So is the Duke Williams experiment over in 2021? Are they going to keep him around?
I would think that experiment is over. It's just going to be even tougher, I think, this offseason. And, we're going to talk about training camp battles that we'd like to see later on. And we'll kind of talk about, I wrote down some wide receiver positions. I think there's so many more interesting names above him. I think he's battling with guys like Isaiah Hodgins. There's some people who think that maybe Marquez Stevenson and Isaiah McKenzie might make this roster. If that happens, then again, that makes it even tougher. So I just think it's going to be a lot tougher for Duke to make this season. And if they were still curious, I mean, I think we would have saw something last season. It'd be weird to just see him on the practice squad all season and people think that, oh no, they still want to see if he can get in there somehow.
Don Keith coming in. Duke is gone, in my opinion. I know I'm in the minority. I don't know. The tide might be changing on you, Don. You might be sliding to the majority on this one because I don't think he's going to be around. And honestly, it's going to be, if he makes the practice squad, it's going to be because of the expanded practice squad again for COVID, if they're doing that again this year. But he's got to be better than, if you've got, what is it? You got a 53 regular season roster and 75, I think, is the practice squad number. He's got to be better than 76 to make it onto that 75-man roster. That's plain and simple. If he is, he will be on the practice squad, but somebody else could pick him up, and maybe you're going to need some extra space for your Mike Loves and Brian Coxes because they're looking up at a bunch of stuff with rookies coming in. So it's a numbers game with Duke Williams, and he might lose out on that.
Yeah, I agree with Don. I think he's done. And honestly, I think Gabe Davis has made Duke basically obsolete. I think everything we wanted Duke Williams to be, we got in Gabe Davis. So I think he's gone as well.
Richard Rush, going back to your comment with Harrison Phillips trying to prove himself. Harry will be our best D tackle of this year. Book it. Richard Rush coming on strong with number 99.
I mean, I feel like there's not a whole lot of competition. I mean, there's Ed Oliver, who I think, yeah, Star is okay. So if he could be better than Star, great, fantastic. Will he be better than Ed Oliver? I don't know. Bold take, but hey, I hope so. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if I want Harrison Phillips to be better than Ed Oliver. I want Ed Oliver to be the best. Yeah.
Hey, if they could push each other, it's all the better for the team. Chris asks, it doesn't seem we have a plan for Duke anymore, and I don't think we do. I really think that he is. He might be the definition of a training camp body this year to see if he can contend for that spot. Do you have another one written down? Because I have 3.
I have 2 more, and some more are coming to me. But these, I have 2 guys that I want to put together. And they kind of have a similar situation, and it's Cody Ford and Dawson Knox. We still have 2 more years with them on their contract, but I think everybody is looking at this 3rd year for them to do something. If Knox, they both had injury issues last year, but I feel like if they can't take this like a step this year, then, I think they're going to be facing even more stiffer competition in year 4. So I kind of thought I should mention them together because it's very similar for both of them. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my 3rd one I wrote down was Cody Ford. Find a home on that offensive line, basically. He started at right tackle. They kicked him into right guard because he wasn't ready for tackle. And then all of a sudden, Quentin Spain is gone, and, we need a left guard. So, let's just put Cody Ford there. He needs to find a home. And right now, it's not going to be right tackle because Darrell Williams has that. And that's if he doesn't get Wally pipped by a Spencer Brown. It could be right guard if they want to put Feliciano back on the left, but Feliciano anchored the right guard for the large majority of the end of the season last year. Mm-hmm. So he's pigeonholed into left guard, I think. And if he can't find a home at left guard, that might be his last opportunity to find a home, to be consistent. We know he's coming off a torn meniscus, but the rookies could get some snaps in there too. We don't know how the coaching staff is going to treat these rookie offensive linemen going in. And now, usually the traditional way is you have your offensive line, you take the best 5 and you stick with it. We might not know until the regular season who the best 5 offensive linemen are when they roll out week 1 against Pittsburgh, because those 3 preseason games, if we don't see Cody Ford there a lot, or if he is left in there or moving around positions during the preseason games, that's not a good sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
You got a last one for us?
Yeah, I kind of came up with
one coming to you.
Yeah, the one that was coming to me was Isaiah McKenzie, because I feel like we let him walk. We didn't re-sign him. We let him test the market. He said he got some other offers, but he came back to us for cheap, like very cheap.
Real cheap.
Yeah. So a lot of people think, he's got the leg up for the kick and punt return job. And I think he has to win those jobs if he wants to stick around or even, get some interest somewhere else. Because like I said, he obviously wasn't that happy with the offers he was getting from other teams. Who knows? Maybe only Brian Dable knows how to really use Isaiah McKenzie. But I think Isaiah McKenzie has to create value, and I think it has to be in the return game.
Yeah, that's a bold take, and I like it, that Isaiah McKenzie has to win the returner job to be on the team. But he's also a gadget, like you said, for Brian Dable. Brian Dable might be at that table pounding it during those final cut meetings for Isaiah McKenzie, because I mean, when you run down the wide receiver room, Diggs, Beasley, Davis, Sanders are pretty much safe, it seems like. Hodgins might push because we have yet to see him really get on the field for the Bills. And they were very high on him. So we all know what's the story with Isaiah McKenzie. He might have to create more value, and creating value by winning both of those jobs would be the way to go.
Yeah, I understand he's the gadget guy, but I put myself in, the Bill shoes, whoever it is who negotiates with them. If Isaiah McKenzie is saying that same thing, well, I'm your gadget guy. Don't you want to bring me back? They said, hey, sure, but go ahead and test the market. They were willing to let their gadget guy possibly go elsewhere. And to me, maybe Brian Dable says, maybe Brian Dable thinks he can replace him. And again, that's just my thoughts based on the fact that they let him test the market and they basically took a risk of possibly losing him.
All right, we're going to move on. We've got training camps. So from players who have to create value to stay to camp battles. Do you have a camp battle that you're just dying to see? What do you want to see from these two guys, three guys, a group? What is it?
I wrote down about 3 or 4 camp battles.
Okay.
If I had to pick the one that I would be most interested in, I think it would be the wide receiver, like the bottom of the wide receiver room, because again, we know it's Diggs, we know it's Sanders, we know it's Beasley, we know it's Gabe Davis. Those 4 locked in. McBean has always carried 6, so that leaves 2. I think Isaiah McKenzie I talked about how he has the leg up because he can return both kicks and punts, and I bet McDermott would hate to have to resort to keeping 2 players just because one can do one and the other can do the other. So if I'm assuming Isaiah McKenzie is that 6th to do returns and continue to be that gadget guy, I think about that 5th spot. Isaiah Hodgins is somebody I would really. I'm looking forward to seeing this preseason. His red zone statistics from like college, I think. Like, I don't think Bean wants to let that dude walk. So I think he's going to give him like every opportunity to show what he has. And of course, I'm kind of spacing on the rest of the competition. People mentioned.
So I've got the roster right here. So you said Diggs, Beasley, Davis, Sanders appear to be safe. You have McKenzie. You've said Hodgins, but then you also have Kumaro, Duke Williams, Tanner Gentry, Brandon Powell, Marquez Stevenson, and Lance Lenoir. It's a big room, and I just don't see. If somebody's going to lose out of the 3, whether it's McKenzie, Stevenson, or Hodgins, and I can't see draft picks losing out when Bean always says we're drafting for now and the future. We're always trying to build for now and the future. I can't see Stevenson clearing waivers if he gets cut and they try to sneak him out of the practice squad. I don't see that happening. And I'm honestly not sure if McKenzie's even willing to go to the practice squad or if he will make it to there. So that's a very good one. What I have written down here, and I didn't write them down in order, but in the middle of my notes, and I just wrote one line for this. Moss versus Singletary is one of the camp battles I'm willing or anxious to see. And one of them just needs to establish the top back status. And part of that is going to be the offensive line. Because, my Lord, we could not run through the middle of the offensive line last year. However, neither player managed to establish themselves as the number 1 back either. So both things were in effect. Now, if we could just get the offensive line to make a few more blocks, maybe our center doesn't get blown up in run protection or run blocking. Just one of them, if they could just establish themselves. And I want to see which one's going to do it.
Yeah. my question is, I mean, you said you want to see one established as the main, but does McDermott want a main back? Because I feel like they've made comments where they say we don't want like a bell cow, we want a committee. So if one does, it'll be interesting for sure. I think they're both going to be on the team this entire season regardless, and they're both going to get their fair share. So yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, like I said, I feel like McBean, they want both of them to do well,
Let's see if I could get my mouse back on the comments and scroll up. Chris S here coming in. If I could get the comment up and my mouse scrolls up and down when I'm not doing anything. There you go, Chris S. CB2 Battle will be intense. And that's one of the players I wrote down later on for the process guys. Levi Wallace can't slow down now. Levi Wallace, he can't come this far and just give up and slow down. If he's come this far and he's been the guy on the field being number 2, who's going to take it from him? Is Dane Jackson actually going to be able to do that?
I think that's what McBean is setting it up for. They drafted a couple guys later on. I know they drafted a Wild Goose, and then I know there's some undrafted guys. I'll be honest, the undrafted signings I have very little knowledge of. But it seems like they are content to go into this training camp with those two going at it. And I put that down also for battles I like to see. I just didn't mention it first because I feel like it's so obvious. Like we all want to see like what's going to happen there.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree with everything you said. Levi Wallace like has to step his game up because I feel like we've seen what he is almost. So it's like, can you be better? Like, can you be more? I think he's had some great games. He's had some games where he's been picked on. And way too many games where he's been picked on. And I think we need a CB2 who's not going to be a liability like Levi Wallace has been sometimes. I'm okay with Levi Wallace being on this team as long as possible as like a CB3, for his entire career. I'm sure he wants to be a starter, but I think we all want the upgrade. So, and I like I said, I think that's the battle that McBean has set up to happen.
All right, Matt Spees is coming in. Might be Spies. I had a teacher with the last name of that same spelling that was Spees, so I'm going to go with Spees. Did you used to be on Built in Buffalo YouTube channel? I did not, Matt. I've always been with Buffalo Fanatics since week 8 or 9 of last season. That's really only the YouTube that I've done since getting out of television and radio. As a 10-year vet over there. Always with the BF family here. I've got one more written down. Actually, 2 more. Knox versus Hollister. And the only thing I'm going to say
I put that down too.
Is that the only thing I will say against about this camp battle is neither one of them in this offensive system will ever come close to the amount of targets that Travis Kelce and Darren Waller get. Waller and Kelce both got more than 100 last year. That there's no way that's happening for either of these guys. So it's almost like I'm really interested to see who can be the better pass blocker. And maybe one of them, because they might catch a few more balls. Last year, Hollister with Seattle, he had 40 targets and came down with 25 of them. And overall, for all receiving, for wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, that was 176th in the league. Knox, he had 4 more targets and just 1 less reception. And that was good for 180th. They're not going to get 100 targets in this offense with all the firepower that we have. So people who are clamoring for huge production out of the tight end position because they're seeing Travis Kelce light it up, that's not going to be our offense ever. I don't see it happening. One of them, like I said, with Moss and Singletary, I want to see one of them establish themselves as the true guy at tight end.
Yeah, I agree. You have, Diggs you have Emmanuel Sanders coming in, you have Cole Beasley, you have Gabe Davis, there's a lot of continuity. So you put those 4 guys in front of Knox and Hollister and say, which one do you guys plan on overtaking? Like when it comes to chemistry with Josh and just the ability to get open and catch the football. I mean, if any of those two can overtake one of them, great, you know. But like you said, it's a steep hill. You said you'd like to see him improve on blocking, sure. I mean, I would still like to see Moss take a jump, Dawson Knox take a jump, and maybe even Hollister as well, like one of the two. Just it's almost like that meme where like the guy's poking something. It's like the Bills tight end group. It's like just do something. Like let's just see anybody do anything in the tight end room. Like it'll be cool.
And Chris S is joining you on that sentiment with a bunch of the comment section. COVID screwed Sweeney hard last year with a lot of other people as well. I want to see him too. Sure, let's get as much in there as we can. I think he had that injury his first year, then got COVID last year. He's got a chance to shine, I think, if he can break out. But if we're talking strictly, go for it.
Sorry. He made a couple, like 2 catches, I think, in the first preseason game that were pretty nice. And then he had like 70 something receiving yards in week 17 against the Jets. So I left Sweeney out, but I would absolutely like to see him possibly ruffle some feathers as well.
Now, if you're talking strictly Knox and Hollister, I'm split because I own a Dawson Knox jersey and I wanted it after he trucked the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
However, there's a girl that I covered playing high school volleyball out here in Idaho Falls who played volleyball at Wyoming and is basically great friends with Josh and she calls him Jake, not Jacob Hollister. She calls him Jake. And so her mom is actually my kid's elementary principal. So I'm so close to Wyoming. Like I can literally see Wyoming from my in-laws' house. So I had this connection with Wyoming and I know people who went there. So I know Jake Hollister kind of, as a Wyoming guy. But then you have Dawson Knox, who I've been a stand for the last 2 years. And I haven't put up with the Dawson Knox criticism at all because I will stand him as long as he's wearing the 88 for the Buffalo Bills. As long as you're talking about those two guys, that's why I want to watch it, because like I said, they're not going to get 100 targets.
Yeah.
Do you have one more written down?
I think I kind of put down, maybe like that 5th guard spot, between Cody Ford, Bud Land. But I mean, I just toss it on there. I feel like Ford is going to be given the opportunity to win it. I don't have a whole lot to say. Right. Okay. So is it really a battle? And it's like it's his job to lose.
All right. We're going to move on with training camp here. This is the process that guys will have to go through in camp. And for an example of this, I wrote down Devin Singletary is going to have to go through the process of getting used to his new body because he changed his physiology so much over the offseason. Now, there's a difference between muscle mass and fat, which, a professional running back's not going to have all that much fat. So did he really change his body that much? Well, yeah, because muscle explodes and acts differently. So if you're adding muscle, he's going to have to get used to it. Do you have a process somebody's going to have to go through in training camp?
I put a couple things down, and I think the one I'm going to mention first is Gabe Davis. And I think his process is he is going to have to continue to develop because a lot of people are probably expecting him to eventually take over that wide receiver 2 spot. So for me, it's like, can you get better? Can you show that it wasn't just Brian Dable's ability to scheme you open like your rookie year? Like, can you develop and be a wide receiver 2, or are you just going to be a, 3 or 4 guy?
Well, there are people out there who believe that Davis could evolve into a Mike Evans type player, which would be absolutely fantastic. And if that's the process, I want to see that evolve in training camp. You're absolutely right. I wrote down Darrell Williams, the process for him. You might have to teach an old dog new tricks with Darrell Williams because you got some young pups who are going to be itching to play and Wally Pip you right out of that spot. Because if you go down hurt or you take a snap off, you may never see that spot again. So Darrell Williams, can you hold that spot off? And can you learn some even newer tricks than what you have just to keep Spencer Brown and Tommy Doyle out of there?
Yeah, I similar to the Ford comment. I think it's Darrell Williams' job to lose, and I don't see him losing it. But a lot of people seem like they are standing Spencer Brown right now. But again, he's a 3rd-round pick. He's got some development to do. I don't think he's going to overtake Darrell Williams in camp. I think it's going to have to be, Spencer Brown might get the job if an injury happens and he comes in and plays lights out, and then maybe they just say, you know what, it's yours for now. So that's how I feel about the right tackle position.
All right, give me another one. Do you have another one written down?
I put this as a pair also because I feel like, again, these two guys are very similar, and it's McKenzie and Levi, and the Isaiah McKenzie and Levi Wallace, because these are two guys who are returning, who have been on the team. They have continuity, and they've had roster spots like the 2 years that we've had them, but it's like they still have to work for it. They still have to win their job. It's a little different in the sense that Levi could not win the CB2 position, but be CB3. But McKenzie, I feel like if he can't win the punt returning and if he can't get a spot on this roster because of his return abilities, then I almost feel like he's gone. So for me, again, it's like that process of, these guys coming back, like, do they have a chip on their shoulder? Like, they have to compete for the jobs that they had, and kind of a little bit more now.
Yeah, I very much feel you out on that. And I feel like we've just been talking about the same thing over and over and over with those guys through the whole offseason. Whoa, Matt Spees, don't speak for the rest of us. Pats fans, welcome here. Not so sure about that. If I want to hear a Pats fan speak, what I want to hear is their ignorance of what it's going to be like over the next 20 years, because they just went through their golden era and they have no idea what is coming. It could very much be the longest playoff drought ever is on their horizon. Now, you might question that as long as they have Bill Belichick. I'm going to say that could very well be a possibility as long as they keep trotting out Cam Newton under center. I did have Levi Wallace written down for you, Jeremy. If you wrote down the process guys will have to go through in camp. And I wrote down, don't slow down now, Levi Wallace. You've always seen the video of the track runners or the marathon runners, and they have the finish line in sight, and they're celebrating with, 100, maybe 50 yards to go. But then there's that one guy who he's just still sprinting, and he ends up passing him right at the finish line. Levi Wallace, if you're going to let Dane Jackson pass you right at the finish line, and that finish line is the end of training camp, the end of preseason, as you're getting ready for week 1 against Pittsburgh, are you going to allow Dane Jackson to pass you right at that point? Don't slow down. You better keep your foot on the pedal because you've held off guys long enough. I'm sure we could go over the list of 10 guys, whatever it is, that Levi Wallace has held off in his 3 years. Don't slow down now. Keep it going. Prove that you're number 2. Prove that you could be a Pro Bowler, because I think teams might be afraid of throwing at Tre'Davious White.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a bunch more written down for this one, but just quickly, the process, Jaquan Johnson, he's basically pushing a boulder up a hill, trying to overcome Hyde and Poyer for playing time. It's going to be very, very hard. But you look at who's not here. I want to say Siren Neal's coming. Siren Neal's still on the roster, but the safety who left us is not coming to mind. Dean Marlowe, thank you very much. Dean Marlowe's not here. Dean Marlowe was a favorite of this coaching staff. He's gone. So they might be rolling with Jaquan Johnson as that third safety. But still, if you're going to supplant one of those two and that's your goal, you're going to basically be pushing a boulder up the hill because that's going to be really tough. Yeah,
I feel like Jaquan Johnson, however his name is said, he'll be on the team for sure. They seem to like him. He's a good special teams player. But yeah, he's like pushing the boulder up the hill, and like while he's pushing it up, it's like Hyde and Poyer like walking on it like a treadmill, and they're like waving to him like thank you. But and if you're him, hey, it might just be a time thing. He's like, I don't think I'm gonna get better than Poyer or Hyde. I don't know which one exactly he backs up. Is it Poyer that he backs up?
Specifically, well, I think Hyde and Poyer are almost interchangeable.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
I don't have a specific.
Yeah, if I'm Jaquan Johnson, I'm probably gonna watch. Like, I got some time to go. I gotta wait until Poyer's out. Like, unless he has the Josh Allen type leap, but I don't see that happening.
All right, we've been on for an hour and 12 minutes now, and we've gone through most of our topics. And the last one I saved the best for last because Josh Allen is always interesting, but he had such a good year last year. One of the topics that came to mind was what are some of the ways that he can improve because he took a statistical jump in just about everything last year, whether it's passing percentage, decision making, even though that's probably not a statistical category, but ways that Josh Allen can improve. And I'm going to start on this one. And number one is obvious. Holding on to the football. We've seen in his 3 years on his tendency to run, or even when he drops back in the pocket, he very easily can let go of the football. He's not conditioned to tuck and run. You know, we saw at least he's not Shady McCoy because Shady McCoy just held the football like a loaf of bread and he just held it out there. He's not that bad, but he's still just not good at hanging on to it when people come in across his arm. My mic's in the way. Just come across his arm and knock it out. Like, just get that a little bit tighter when you run.
Yeah, I basically put the same thing. At first, when I read your notes and I read that, I was thinking I might just have to sit back and have you tell me because you're right. Statistically, he improved everywhere. But and then I thought of fumbles and I wrote, slide instead of taking hits. We love, how tough he is, but he's your quarterback. He's got to be a little bit safer sometimes, not just for injuries, but like you said, fumbles. He still showed that he does have that issue. I think when he's running and you see him about to get ready to get hit on, you kind of get a little worried still. Like you kind of hold your breath a little bit. I don't know if he had less fumbles last year. Maybe he did. I don't know if they improved, but yeah, I think he definitely can improve there. And I'm sure he did get better because I can't think of it like a whole lot of times like last season where he fumbled a lot. I know there was a couple, but still.
There were a couple, and it almost seems like it's at the most untimely situation. Like you fumbled there. It was the Indianapolis game in the playoffs, but I think, well, it wouldn't have been Cody Ford who jumped. It might have been Deion Dawkins who jumped on that fumble late in the game. I did write number 2 for me was get down when you take off. I love your running ability, and I love you jumping over Anthony Barr and getting through the Jacksonville defense your rookie year for those touchdowns. But get down, like, yes, J.A. is old school tough. Y coming in, J.A. is old school tough. I absolutely agree. I just wish he would be 2021 smart when it comes to his legs and getting down and not taking hits. Because if he doesn't take hits a la Tom Brady, he might be able to play for us for 20 years.
Yeah. Somebody just added a completion percentage, throwing to the left.
Perfect. As a perfect comment, he could improve on that because he does so well to his right. And if he could just get better to his left, I think it would open up a lot of other things for Brian Dable in the playbook.
Yeah. And then I also want to go back, like when we talked about Josh Allen's, fumbles and running and how tough he is. Matt's comment, he says, it looks sexy, but it's a risk. It's one of those things that when he gets away with it, you love it. But when he makes the mistake, you're furious and you're like, come on. So I feel like when something has those two ends of the spectrum, it's like you got to find the balance. You got to be smart about it.
The one I wrote down, and this might not go over well, but there's a specific play that I have in mind, and I want him to improve at humbleness, and it's just because of this one play. So I wrote down humbleness, and if you remember week 3 against the Rams, when he spun the ball and he got the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which was
that the Rams
yards.
or the Chargers?
It might have been the Chargers. I was thinking LA. The Chargers. Yeah, I think you're right on that. LA. I had LA on the mind, and I just said
right.
Rams. And he spun the ball. Well, that is the inflection point. If you understand theories and game theory, there's a thing called an inflection point. An inflection point is that point where you can divert your time. You're going along the timeline, and you hit an inflection point, and you can divert, and things can go awry. Things went awry at that point because that is almost exactly what sparked the Chargers' comeback in that game. And that one play drove me absolutely nuts from Josh Allen last year. And it's, people will say they love the attitude. They love, what's a good word for it? The spunk.
The swagger.
The swagger is a great word. They love the swagger. I don't mind it, but I wish it's the Chargers. You scored the touchdown. Like, the biggest insult could almost be trotting back to the bench like it was no big fucking deal. And like, I scored a touchdown against you guys. It's no big deal. I'm going back to the bench. I'm going to sit down. I'll shake hands over there. He didn't need to spin the ball because if you watch Brady all the time, and this is what he does, he's the king of, I scored a touchdown against you. It's like it doesn't even matter. I'm just going back to the bench.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing when I'm playing Madden and I score and I choose like a celebration dance. And I'm always like, man, I can't do any of these dances. So I would just walk back to the bench like I didn't care. But the reality is I just can't dance or anything. So, or I would just do a very like too white dance move.
Well, Matt Spees coming in and says that moment was so badass though. And I don't disagree. It was badass. Josh Allen is a badass. However, I just want you to be aware of the 15-yard penalty, that inflection point in the game that you could be putting in there. And then if you really want to get under somebody's skin, be very, very humble and act like scoring a touchdown against them was no big deal. Like, that's one of the most what is the word? Kill them with kindness almost.
Yeah.
It goes so much farther against teams. Like, it's no big deal. It could be very defeating as well. He just scored a touchdown against us and ran off like it's no big deal. I got nothing to stop this guy. Just be very careful with those moments where you might just not be so humble.
Yeah, and I think it's harder. Like you said, it kind of sparked like their comeback. I think it's harder to get under a team's skin and like motivate them when you don't showboat. Like you said, if you just like keep it quiet and go back, like it's hard for the other team to be like, damn, like I can't pump myself up because they're not giving me enough to get mad and get more energetic. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And Y says, I wish Edmonds had that attitude more often, that badass attitude. And
he's a quiet person.
He's a very quiet person.
Yeah. Despite that, though, he still has the captain thing. People said, like, when he speaks, people still listen. He's not a loud guy. He's not like Trey White. He's probably not like Jerry Hughes. He's just a man of few words. And I totally get that because I feel like that's me, which is weird that I do a a podcast and come on here to say that I'm somebody who, doesn't always like to talk very often. But so I kind of get that. And like you said, like that silent kind of, kill him with kindness. Like I think it's okay to have both of those kinds of people.
Now, Matt Spees coming in. Who on our team should show that type of energy, if anyone? And that is a great question. I'm thinking defensive line. Matt Milano would be an amazing. If we saw Matt Milano with that type of badass attitude, because that's exactly like Matt Milano is almost exactly what I'm talking about. Be that make a huge play and be humble. Run back to your spot. Listen for the huddle. Like if Matt Milano had that type of badass attitude, that would be freaking sweet. So anybody on the defense, the offense, I want to be a little less flashy, catch people off guard just a little bit more, deflate their hopes and dreams. But defense, just shove it down their throats.
I want to mention something, and I think you'll like this because, like you said, you've been a Dawson Knox stan since you've been on the team, and I am a Dawson Knox optimist, so I'm kind of with you there. But I was listening to Lockdown Bills, Joe Marino. It was just like a couple months back, and somebody asked him who he thought like had the most like swagger or so on the Bills, and he mentioned Dawson Knox, and he didn't mention the off the field or the celebration stuff, but he was like, that's the kind of dude, like when he gets a ball and he like turns around to like play, he invites like impact. Mm-hmm. He invites like the other team, like he invites chaos, and
it's I think that's like a really cool thing.
Yeah. He's like I want you to hit me. Like, let's go, like bring it on. So
absolutely.
I just kind of want to highlight somebody who I feel like does, because I thought that was a good point by Joe. And you mentioned the Cincinnati game when he trucked that one dude, stiff armed another. And I think we've all been waiting to see it again. And you can tell like he wants to do it too, like on every single play.
And don't get me wrong, I love the photo of Stephon Diggs turning back and taunting the Patriots defensive backs. I love that, but he didn't get a 15-yard flag for it, so there's not going to be a that type of inflection point that that Allen had with the Chargers. I definitely think, Feliciano, the offensive line. You don't hear a lot from Mitch Morse, a very quiet person. The offensive line, you want them big, mean, and nasty, because you almost think it's the defensive line that's always talking more. I almost always think of the defensive ends who talk. Was Dwight Freeney a good trash talker? He's coming to mind off the top of my head for the Colts way back when. Maybe the offensive line, if they could come up just a little bit more mean and nasty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like you hear about it from Feliciano, and then you saw a little bit of it from Dawkins in the AFC Championship game. Like he got a little nasty there, but you don't see it too much from them. A lot from the defensive line, which I think makes sense though.
I have such a hard time imagining Deion Dawkins being mean and nasty because of his personality off the field. He has an elite personality off the field, and then there's they talk about the switch. He's got to have a switch if he's going to do that. But I just think about him, talking about Schno on the field as he's trying to block the defensive end. I kind of find it humorous to imagine that would be his personality on the field. But it's funny in my mind, I don't think it's actually the way he's going to play the game. But that's about it for me. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, not that I can think of. We covered everything.
We're pushing 90 minutes here on the Air Raid Hour. I am Jeff Landers, and that is Jeramy. What is your? This is actually the first time we've talked. I don't know your last name, dude.
Yeah. So whenever I write articles, I use my middle name, which is actually Allen, Jeremy Allen. But my last name is actually Jeremy Matthews. I don't use my last name when I write articles because I'm a teacher. I teach 8th graders, and I was like, I don't need 8th graders Googling me and finding, an article I wrote about like Tom Brady teabagging Bruce Arians or something like that. So I don't use my real last name in writing, but that's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is Jeremy Matthews. I am Jeff Landers. We are filling in for Judge Steve and, Judge Tilt and Kendall here on the Air Raid Hour. Before we sign off tonight, give me a Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.